This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jambo Jambo and hello everybody. A very warm welcome to our Sunset Drive. We are in the Masai Mara of Kenya with a Pride of Lions. My name is David. Welcome aboard to your very own safari, live from the African bush. This is the River Pride, a Pride of Lions I've been following as many as a couple of weeks, and these are the two girls in that particular Pride. And if anybody was with us this morning, they had 4 cubs that had some dramatic experiences trying to cross the river. Now I got 2 here, but I'm sure the 3rd one and the 4th one are not very far from here, because I got a feeling they have a kill with them, because not very far from where I am, we had seen a herd of zebras. My name is David, and with me on camera this afternoon is Bungay. Welcome everybody, and let us share the experience of this Pride, because we'll show you a 3rd lioness where she is under a tree. And remember, as I told you, we are coming to you live. Please send us questions or comment. Send them through to hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or at FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. For the youngsters, you may do the same. Kids' questions at WildEarth.tv. A rather warm afternoon in the Masai Mara of 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. But there's not a single sign of rainfall this afternoon. Now, I got a feeling, as I said earlier, these lionesses here got some food. And if you look carefully, you can see a small little baby there. You can see a tail twitching there. You see, that's one of the cubs that we saw this morning. There were 4 of them, and they did what we were calling lion's migration, and those 4 cubs crossed the stream this morning, and it was quite dramatic. It was an experience that I have never seen in my life. For the last 6 days or so, I had not seen these crabs. I was getting a bit worried. But voila, this morning I saw all of them, all in good shape, very playful, and you even saw them trying to climb a tree. Now these crabs are going to 3 months and they have started eating meat. Lina, very good question, and you're asking where the males are. The males are always somewhere, and Lina, you know, in the lion's dynamics, you get the females on their own, and the males form coalitions, and they're very rarely together. But if there's some food of some sort, if there's some prey like they have now, you'll see them, the males showing up. But currently, I've been seeing this pride on their own, and the last I saw male pride or pride male for these lions or lionesses is the one that we call Blondie, which had an injured foot. This territory is controlled by a coalition of males that we call the Triangle Boys. Blondie is one of them, and the other two are Fang and Halftail. Nice. That is a happy lioness, I would say. Because I think the other side of that elephant grass you see there is where the prey is. Well, this afternoon we are coming to you from different multiple locations, and I'll be taking you, or will be taking you to one of them, because what I want to do is to go around and see whether I can go closer to where those lionesses are with their kill.
Hello everyone, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to andBeyond Ngala, where we are watching a leopard. It's quite a long distance view, but he's sitting on top of a termite mound. We can kind of just see the back of his head, or the side of his head there. Very, very well camouflaged. So my name is MARNA, and with me behind the camera is Gert. So for those of you that tuned in this morning, you know that late in the morning drive, we actually found the Makoti male. So myself and Gert, when we went out this afternoon, we went back to that spot and we actually found him in the riverbed, and he was stalking an Ngala. And we followed him all the way around, but he, unfortunately, was too slow. That Ngala moved quite quickly and moved into quite a tricky area, and he lost interest. And now he just crossed the road and he's lying on top of a nice termite mound, scanning his surroundings, probably looking for his next victim. I actually didn't think he was going to stick around, just because it's so nice and overcast today, which means these cats will stay active for much longer. But if we didn't see him crossing, if we weren't following him, this would have been a very, very difficult spot to actually find him. He blends in really well. When we zoom out, you'll see we're sitting on the road, and that is such a good spot. He's just peeking over that termite mound, and there's a log in front of him as well. Quite a nice vantage point for him. There's a slight breeze blowing, so that's keeping him nice and cool. And you can see those ears of his moving around, just listening. We'll see where he goes. If he comes back this way, we'll try and follow him. Otherwise, we're going to have to let him be.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Masai Mara. We have two Dagger boys having a rest. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. It's a quiet, chilly afternoon, so it's a good time for the buffaloes to have a rest. This time of the day becomes a cool time to rest, because sometimes during the day when it's hot, they always prefer resting. But good thing today, it's cool, so at least they can have that advantage. Now, these are old bulls that cannot keep up with the herd, so they'll be left around together and to graze by themselves here. Being the two of them, they form security for themselves. There's two not far from here, so there's around 4 about here. So when buffalo bulls get old, their molars or teeth get worn out. So because of the hard grass that is around here, they cannot be grazing all the time, that hard grass. So they prefer places like this swampy area where the grass is soft and has lots of water. Buffaloes cannot go without drinking for a long time. So they have to be within areas where they can drink. So short routes on short distances to the water. Wrinkle, thank you so much for your question. Do we have buffaloes that migrate in the Mara? We don't have buffaloes that migrate, but buffaloes move from one area to another. They occupy what we call home ranges. So they'll move into these home ranges from one place to another. And these home ranges sometimes mix up, but buffaloes avoid going into other home ranges. So they don't necessarily migrate. They occupy what we call home ranges, and which are big. Look at how that one is looking at us. So when buffaloes have spotted something, they always lift up their head, nose first, to smell what is around the area, and also to have a good sight. So all buffalo bulls will occupy very small home ranges. I reckon more about 3 or 4 square kilometers. So these guys can fight off a fully grown lion, and they can defend themselves from a pride of up to 5. But sometimes the buffaloes might isolate the weak one, the one that is very old, and at least and put it down. The one to the left looks a little bit bigger. Oh, we had some oxpeckers that have come to join in. So oxpeckers play a vital role in this kind of relationship. It's called a symbiotic relationship, where they'll come and pick ticks, sometimes flies, and also they'll alert them if predators come around here. These bulls have lost their fur, so when it's hot, they'll wallow in the mud, hence the name mud or dagger boys. Holistic, thank you for your question. What makes their horns curve? It's their nature, and it's their all physique. This is how buffaloes are designed to be. So because horns are built of keratin, they actually curve in different kind of animals. So all animals here in Africa who have horns have different horn shapes. Not quite certain what makes the horn shape curve, but generally it's the buffalo physique, because they need to defend themselves from big cats. So the reason why they have those big curly horns. This is interesting to see these guys when they're seated together. See, one is watching over to our direction, and the other one behind him is watching the other direction, meaning that they're all alert. If a predator approaches, they can all see from all directions. As we find something else to see, we're going to jump into another safari vehicle.
Now, good afternoon and welcome to the very first segment from Djuma Private Game Reserve here on the western fringes of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park, where a brown snake eagle has casting its murderous gaze across the plains here of the Lowveld of South Africa. My name is James Hendry. It is my Sunday smile, and on camera today we have got Niels. Hello, Niels. And here we have got a brown snake eagle that, as far as I'm aware, does not have a name. And if I shut up for 2 seconds, what you will hear is the call of some dwarf mongoose, which have taken exception to the presence of the brown snake eagle sitting above their heads. And although he is called a brown snake eagle, he would not turn his nose up at a mongoose meal. So rather strange weathered afternoon. It's probably around about 26 degrees Celsius or so. Still a relatively cool breeze coming in out of the southeast. Very typical for this time of the year. Not much moisture on it. Wouldn't expect there to be much moisture on it. And these fronts can sit around for 2 to 5 days sometimes. Not sure how long this one's going to be around. There you can see his pretty yellow eyes. And you can marvel at the fact that his head is staying perfectly still while his body moves with the wind. Riley, eagle species in Djuma? Well, we can count them together. There's the Wahlberg's eagle, the tawny eagle, the Marshall eagle, the lesser spotted eagle, the steppe eagle, the African hawk eagle, the fish eagle, which isn't a true eagle. So let's have, it's those 6, potentially a crowned eagle, but very unlikely. And I feel like I'm leaving one out. No, I think that's pretty much it. I haven't looked at my app. So those are the true eagles, and then the main, he's gone. Then in terms of snake eagles and other kinds of eagles, we've got things like the brown snake eagle, the Bateleur eagle, and the fish eagle. And potentially the black-chested snake eagle. And that's about it, eagle-wise, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to head down towards Treehouse Dam area and see if we can pick up where Tundi was this morning.
So we've moved forward a bit and we managed to get a slightly better view of him. You can see he's just sitting up, but still on that large termite mound that's next to the road here. Now you can see he's scanning around, still very aware of his surroundings. See the ears move, he's listening to what's happening around him. And clearly he must be quite hungry, if he's stalking Ngala and things walking around in the riverbed. It's very opportunistic. Or, he's got big dreams. Going for a large Ngala bull like that. But he would take just about anything that comes his way. So small things like squirrels or a mongoose or one of these ground birds, lizards, even insects he'll try and take. And then obviously all the smaller antelopes. He'll go for steenbok, duiker, impala. We saw him stalking that Ngala. They are very, very opportunistic. And they even scavenge sometimes. So if he finds a carcass in a tree that another leopard potentially killed and dragged up the tree, he'll try and steal it. Or if he finds something that just died out in the bush, he'll also eat that. Very, very opportunistic. Now, for those of you that don't know the story, his name is Makoti male, and Makoti means vulture in Shangaan or in Tsonga. And the reason why he got this name was because when he was still young, he started climbing these large trees along the Timbavati riverbed, and he would stalk and catch vultures sitting on their nest. Now, that's pretty amazing, but it wasn't ideal, seeing as most of the vultures we see around here are endangered. But quite an interesting thing, and it's something I've never seen before, and a really incredible thing to watch. The stealth and the way he positioned himself in that tree before he pounced on top of that nest without the vulture knowing he was in the tree was quite incredible. But that's where his name comes from, the Makoti male. Now it looks like he's getting quite sleepy. See his eyes closing there. Megan's saying he's got a gorgeous golden coat. Megan, I agree. And especially with the bit of sun we're getting now, that makes him look even better. They are really beautiful to look at. I mean, I could watch a sleeping leopard the whole day. It's harder watching a sleeping lion, I'd say. These leopards are just gorgeous. And a young male leopard especially. We're going to sit here for a little while longer and we'll send you off to one of our other guides.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. This afternoon it's really quite chilly and very overcast. My name is Grant and behind the camera is Craig, and this afternoon is quite a chilly day. It's very overcast and we've had a few drops of rain every now and then, and the wind is really cold as well, and we've managed to find a sleepy side-striped jackal lying right in the middle of the open grasslands here. You can see it just there in the middle of the screen with its head down. There's not too much cover around it, so it's tucked itself up into, or curled itself into a little ball, and it's trying to keep warm. It's even got its nose tucked underneath its tail. Now you might notice that the area around it is quite black with tiny little shoots of grass coming through. So this area was recently burnt, and the new grass shoots that you're seeing now are only probably a few days old. I think we started to see some of them popping out about a week ago. And so, this area before was very long grass, and we would never have had the opportunity to see this little jackal sleeping here. And the jackal would have also been quite a lot more, it would have been much more comfortable tucked away in that grass. It would have been much more sheltered and warm. Now it's got absolutely no protection from the elements. So KB is asking, what do jackals eat? And they have an extremely varied diet. They've even been known to be omnivorous, but out here in Phinda, they're mostly scavenging from other animals, catching any kind of small little mammal, so like rats and mice. They'll eat birds. They'll even go for insects, and they have been known to eat fruit when certain trees bear fruit. So where we are now, we actually came out to look for a female cheetah with two youngsters that was seen this morning, actually feeding on an Ngala, and they have moved off the kill. We did manage to find the kill, but there's no sign for now of the cheetah. And so this jackal is probably just sticking around in the area. I'm sure it's aware of that carcass, and it will probably go and investigate maybe a little bit later. They are mostly nocturnal, so it might be waiting for the darkness to fall, and then it will go and investigate and see if it can get some scraps from that carcass. But yeah, we're going to be moving on from here and seeing what else we can find for you this afternoon.
Jackals are always nice to watch, especially when they're following up the lions, because they know the lions will be hunting. Now we have the lounge in Masai Mara where these females look like they want to go on an evening stroll. We have 3 lionesses with us here, and it's about time for them to go and maybe go for a hunt. Seems like she's talking. There's a lioness to the right, and I don't know whether she wants to approach her or not. And that is typical how lions will stalk. And sometimes when it's evening like this, they're always playful. So Big James is going up and slightly to the right. There's the other lioness. So at cooler times of the day, like this evening and in the morning, lions will be active. You can see them hunting. But generally, they prefer hunting during the night. This time of the day does not deter them from hunting. If an opportunity arises, they'll definitely go after. So we're around a marsh area where animals have come to drink and left. But because it was so hot during the day, these lions were inside those bushes. Now those bushes are called the orange leaf croton. The croton helps the lion deter away flies. Look at those 2, they are so playful. Grooming. As we wait for them to move, I'm going to take you to another safari vehicle.
Well, it's very good to see lions when they're playful instead of being flat. I wouldn't say mine are playful or flat, they are there in between. But as I told you earlier, I was to make a huge loop and come close to see these 2 girls that I saw in the morning. But above all, those cubs that look very different from this morning. I'm saying different because I think they have been swimming inside the ribcage of some prey. My guess was right. When I left them, I think they made a kill. And they must have hunted that zebra that you see there. This must be shortly after I left them, because from where the lionesses warned the cubs, there was a huge herd of zebras, of about 100 of them, and I'm sure now there are 99. So this was one of them. And I think the hindquarters and most likely the abdomen has been opened, and this is where the cubs must have been swimming in the blood and trying to feed, because if you look at them, they look very bloody. And this may confirm the age. I've been trying to age them up of about 2 to 3 months, because that is the age. Normally the cubs will start eating flesh. This is the River Pride, for those of you who could be joining us now. Sherry, you're asking a very good question. When will the male lions help with the hunt? In the lion's kingdom, in general, it's the females who do the hunt. But I'm talking of normal prey, zebras, wildebeest, toppies, congoni, that size of prey. But when it involves a huge prey like a buffalo, many times the males will come in play, but not always. We have seen females, and especially this one in this particular pride. Last week, 3 of them brought a huge male buffalo down. Now, earlier I was discussing the difference between coalitions and prides. And in prides, you'll always see females with their youngsters, be it sub-adult males or sub-adult females, and the male coalitions being males only and on their own. Now, more often than not, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been seeing these girls on their own with the cubs. It's only once or twice I saw them with one of the pride males that is called Blondie. If a male is around and a hunt, is called for, then the males will always come in play and help the girls bring the very strong buffaloes down, or maybe a giraffe, and at times an eland. From the panting of that one female, you can tell they've eaten well. She rolled at one point and her belly was bulging. Just look at those calves, and if you remember, for those of you who are with me in the morning, they look a little bit lighter, but I'm sure apart from eating the flesh, they must have been playing in the ribcage of that zebra. There are 2 other females that are not in this particular pride, but I'm trying to imagine they're not very far from here. What I want to do is go find out where the other 2 females are, and who knows, they could be having another kill as we take you to another location.
A very good afternoon to everybody and a warm welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. My name is Carl, behind the camera is Glenn, and we have stumbled upon a bit of a crime scene. We were busy making our way down south. We're going to check back on that little Cape Fox den, and then hopefully with these cool conditions we have something available for this afternoon. But a male ostrich, we were looking at ostrich this morning and their eggs, something took out a male ostrich here. Not uncommon, preferred prey species by certain animals, and something that would be easy prey, let's say that for something like a cheetah or a hyena. So more than likely this animal was resting and a predator would have snuck up close enough just to pounce and just unexpectedly got this ostrich. It's fairly windy today, so you can see the feathers have blown quite far, but there's a lot of feathers, but the color and the amount of feathers, we are 100% sure. We are 100% sure that it was an ostrich, and a male at that, seeing these dark feathers. It's always nice to stumble across. We've seen a few tracks. We've seen brown hyena, spotted hyena in here. There's jackal that has come in as well, and then there's cheetah tracks that are older than these other carnivores. Yeah, man, it's really beautiful. I mean, if you take a look at that, it is stunning. And that is the correct word to use for this feather. Back in the day, and still used today, very, very highly sought after for the fashion industry. And this is where ostrich farming in South Africa would have boomed for the want and the desire for these beautiful feathers within the fashion industry. And they died. We also use ostrich feathers for feather dusters here in South Africa. I'm sure across Africa itself, but multiple uses, not just the males strutting their stuff, showing off, also warmth and protection that these beautiful items provide. But what a scene. We thought we'd just share that with you guys while we're making our way down south. We hope that everyone's having a fantastic Sunday, and we are ready to show you what we have in store for you today.
We have found some kudus that are alive, and well, they're just eating a little bit of grass, and well, not grass, leaves from trees. They are browsers. But more interesting is the bird that's calling. And it's mainly interesting because I'm not sure what it is. I think that it is a Sabota lark attempting a whole lot of different calls. So as the kudu disappear, what I'm going to do is just drive around this tree and see if we can't find this bird. Let's see if we can solve the mystery for ourselves, because I know that none of you will be able to sleep or even continue with your lives unless you know exactly what it is that's going beep 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 beep. It's possibly a bearded robin, but I don't think so. Let's just scan this tree over here, if you don't mind, Niels. So it's now shut up because I started the car, but it did that last time, and then I'm hoping it'll start again. You can hear a couple of larks, not larks, waxbills. The kudu's back. We can have a look at him while I look for the bird. Wouldn't expect to find a bearded robin here. There. I can see the bird. It's a robin. You won't be able to see it, Niels. It's actually... There it goes. Choop-poop. It is definitely a robin, and it would seem to be a white-browed scrub robin. The mystery is solved.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in Sabi. It's pretty little cloudy this afternoon, 25 degrees, 77 Fahrenheit, sitting here with a herd of elephants. And I'm Andrew and Paul on camera this afternoon. So this is how we begin with the drive, look around. But anyway, it's kind of a slightly, the temperature is still down for most animals who have paired up. But we were lucky with this herd of elephants. Looks like they're all spread around in this area, where some of them they've been heard trumpeting in the middle of the block. Maybe when we get around we're able to find them, but this looks like one of the female here. We've seen she had two different age of a young one, and that makes sense. That could be not her own, maybe one of them, but maybe the slightly bigger one, it's not hers. But that's typically happening on elephants, where they take care of one another, especially in the herds of female. They all make sure everybody is well taken care. Females she was seen separate away from the rest of the group, but few babies, different mother, followed her. If they're in a need for a milk, if she lactating, she will be able to let them drink. So they drink. Milo, welcome to the show this afternoon. You want to know if elephants have hair on their skin. When they're younger, you seem to see a little bit of a hair on their skin, more especially the babies. It seems because they're still too young. But when looking at a bigger animal like that, you won't see a lot of those hair. But on the ears, also under a jaw, you may see a lot of hair as well. And it's same thing with the rhino, same thing with the hippo. This animal they have designed with a very thick skin. Mainly the hair on the animals it's actually help them to, stay warmer when it's cold. So looking at this animal with a thick layer of skin, and of course they wouldn't really need a lot of hair on them. You just see single few of hair, but then, you know, I know the tail is actually have long, you know, hair on them, just because of they use them for whipping around, you know, for the flies and things like that. And see how she takes a lot of grasses, use the hair trunk as they normally do as elephants. So I'm gonna go around, hopefully we'll see more of them.
Look what we have here. One of the beautiful small antelope. It's a klipspringer. This is where you normally find them. Hi everyone, my name is Norman, and behind the camera it's Odie. Welcome to Eco Training Pride Land Conservancy. We are live in the African bush. It's such a beauty to have a look at this small antelope here. I think antelopes now are starting to be my favorite animals. So this little champ here, it's a male klipspringer. Oh, we're losing sight of him, but you can still see his eye and, like, you know, partially his body, just because they live in this beautiful rocky outcrop environment. Can see him like flicking his ears. They are very special antelope species. Spend most of their life and time on top of this kind of environment, feeding on new shoots, very selective to what they eat. They don't really need water. Just before we started rolling, there was something that seems like, you know, it was his lady. Normally you find them, just two of them. We lost sight of him, but you can see just behind this false marula, the tree that is just like, but it's just keeping, I think he can hear me talking. So I'm just gonna try and reposition my vehicle a little bit and see if we can try and get a better visual of him. There we go.
Our lions are back on the move. Seems like there's an activity going on. That lead lioness is taking them maybe for a hunt. Those two, the ones leading, look like youngsters or teenage lionesses. So mom is going to take them to a hunt. I'm sure from watching her house, she's been doing it from when they were cubs. They've already learned a few tricks or two. Okay, you're coming back, saying hi to mom. So this helps the bond when they're rubbing on the faces. It's called allo grooming, where they enhance the bond between the pride. So these two, the ones leading, will not leave their mother. They will stay with the mom for the rest of their life until maybe something happens, maybe death, or the pride becomes too big, then they'll split up. But females never leave the natural pride. There's another lioness coming, that's why they're watching her. She is not far from where we are. She is actually to the right of us. It seems like this is a big team to go on a hunt. So we have two adult lionesses in this pride. So the youngsters will also join in for a hunt. So we're going to follow them and see where they're ending up to.
Team, stay in touch with those lions because they might lead you to what we have here. They might take you for a hunt. Now, my lions already did the job much earlier this morning, and at least one of the females have gotten to the table and could be either trying the loin steak or the fillet of what was a bachelor's or common zebra until this morning. Sometimes we're always very torn between the prey and the predator. But when you think of it, the predators also need to survive. And luckily we have enough number of prey, be they zebras or wildebeest. See how she has put on the hind legs to make her access the soft parts of this flesh. Because normally most cats, apart from hyenas and wild dogs, I have never seen them having a proper plan once they bring the kill down. And especially the wild dogs, they'll eat from any angle, any part. But the lions, cheetahs, and leopards tend to start always from the hindquarters. Now, look at these cubs now. I'm still refusing to understand these cubs because this morning, consulting detective gave me a comment that these cubs had a death wish. Because what they did I had never seen before. They decided to cross a stream. One way they did very well, but crossing back to where the parents were, they jumped like we see the wildebeest migration. Now they're trying to chew the ears where chances are they have no chance of going through that hide. All lion cubs are born without teeth, just like humans. What I think they got now are milk teeth. And if anything, look at this one here. I'm sure she knows where the right flesh is. Still a good question. Now, these cubs, to me, they're about 2.5 to 3 months old. Or anything, say 2 to 3. And as they get older, when they're about 6, 8 months, you'll always see them, and that one is a female, I would guess, tagging along with their parents. And sometimes they'll stop somewhere, and maybe the hunters will leave them on top of a termite mound, and they'll watch how the mothers do it. But anything from 2 years and above, most lion cubs are able to hunt for themselves. And 2.5, especially the males, they're independent in terms of hunting and they can move on to their own life. But 2.5 years, of course, depending, going from one individual to another, is the right age to be independent hunters. For now, I'm sure they're just having fun. And not sure whether they are congratulating the mother or the auntie for a job very well done. So this lioness has to marinate the head. And most likely she must have gotten the eyes out. I can't see the eyes. Any part that would easily go bad because of the heat of the day, they'll always eat it first. And the whole idea is try and conceal the kill being picked by other predators like hyenas. For these lionesses here, the only concern for them would be hyenas and not any other predator, not cheetahs, no leopards. Wild dogs, I would highly doubt. In any case scenario, I've seen a lioness going for a baby wild dog and eating it when it comes to predator competition. But when it comes to snatching food from one predator to another, I've always seen hyenas do that very well to lions, to leopards, and to cheetahs. Here in the MARNA Triangle, we got one clan that's called the North Clan. That it's got a name. When they pick any kill of any pride of lions, they do not care. And they gang up there, you see 2, you see 5, you see 10. They start whooping, they start calling, and they intimidate the lions with a kill, and they very quickly have to move away. I've seen them do that to the owinos. Owino is another pride of lions. I've seen them do that to mogoros. Mogoros is another pride of 2 females. But from where I am, it's quite a distance from where they have the den of the North Clan. Sometimes you'll always see the mamas softening the flesh for their cubs, so that at least their very weak and not very strong milk teeth can be able to cut pieces of flesh. Don't fall in the ridge there, come up, don't stay in the lager. There's a bit of water in that lager there, but from what I saw them do this morning, I'm not worried because it's a much smaller stream than the big one earlier today. You can see in the background there, you remember unfortunately last night we were not able to broadcast because we had a huge storm, and I wouldn't think this one would be coming in this direction, because I'm going to remain here, enjoy these lions feeding as we take you to another colleague of mine.
So we were very, very lucky, unfortunately, that this little guy here, he did not move off, because I thought when we first got here, it was just a little bit like, I'm shy. It's actually my first time within the eco-training Prideland Conservancy property to see Klipspringen. So, yeah, it's a beautiful scene. I thought he was gonna move off, but unfortunately, I think he got relaxed. Maybe his lady somewhere around in the area as well. We just observe him nibbling on, I think it's a false marula just next to him on top of the coping. I'm actually very keen to know or to see what is really looking for, because since we arrive here, it seems like there's something that grasps on his attention, which I very find. Sometimes you can find animals just by looking at the prey, like looking in a certain direction. So just underneath the eye, you see there's like a dark spot. I'm not sure if you can see that properly, but it's quite clear in my screen. That's actually where the gland comes from, where these guys marks their territory.
What is interesting about that Klipspringer is that they're not always quite so docile, and I'm not sure if those of you who are in contact with Taylor or Tristan would like to prevail upon either of them to show you a video that they have of a Klipspringer at Phinda that lives up on the mountain. It is a vicious creature. Anyway, it takes great, enormous displeasure at being around human beings. Here we've got some giraffes, and they are eating from a tree that produces the best smell in the Lowveld, and that is the gardenia. And they are, in fact, eating those blooms. They're eating leaves and flowers. I've just watched the male on the left, well, they're both males. The one on the left eating a flower. There, the one on the right's just done the same thing. Their smell is just delicious. Now, I always thought to myself, it is odd that these gardenias flower for so little time. But I wonder if the giraffes and various other animals devouring the flowers don't have something to do with that. Although, if you look at the flowers, what you'll see is that some are whitish and the others are kind of more shriveled yellow. And they go from white to shriveled yellow just in a couple of days. Doesn't take long at all. Sonia, I'm not really sure what the international or the standard international unit is for toughness. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say that with our tongues being a 1 on the toughness scale, I would say that the giraffe's tongue is probably around about a 9 on the toughness scale. They are, of course, able to eat thorns, lick them off the viciously armed branches that they choose to sup upon, and so yeah, they're very tough indeed. But what's interesting is that if you feel them, they're apparently not very leathery. They're quite soft to the touch. But I think that the dermal layer or epidermal layer probably replaces frequently, and they produce gargantuan amounts of sticky, or not sticky, of lubricating, protective, viscous saliva. Oh, this tree is going to have no flowers left by the time these two fellows have finished. I think we'll carry on and look for Tundi again.
Beautiful, James. Hope you get luck with the Tundi there. Yeah, we now gone around trying to relocate on this herd of elephants where we got, it looks like all spread around here. We got them in this uphill. And then there is all over us, as you can see. But some of them still far in the drainage line, some of them already up across the road. And this is, as you can see, far back in there. But I'm not sure, it's kind of mountain. I'm correct, I believe it is. I can't move because maybe I'll disturb them. But that it is mounting, I believe. Mountain elephant. So actually I can be able to move slightly forward. Give up. That's probably just gonna wait here. We was on a far in distance. This that young male always behind that other one there. So yeah, in a herd like this is where the breeding takes place, where you got the males in the area. Mating is not only dominate males, whoever's around the male, or to me they looks like it's probably two male where they were practicing still under the age. So when I look from the far distance, I thought, whoa, there's a mountain since one was on top of the other one. But, then I was wrong. Looks like they're two bulls, probably playing, as you can see. And one has got like 5-legged out is already. And that's how they do. So here it comes very much clearly, and they're all happy about being up here. We always explain a little bit of how males don't associate with females. All the time, this young bull, they're already in the age of being separated. So for that case, this morning we didn't actually see a lot of them in this, probably is a different herd, but we didn't see young males like that age over there that we can see right now. So these were looking at anything from like 12 maybe, or 16 years old. They're already big enough not to follow their mother again. So if that's the case, not a problem if they ever come across their whole group hooked up with them, and then finally they were left behind or separate away from them, and they carry on do their things. So herd where it's all social animals, all females and the young one. So it's all related there. The herd is built with all related animals within this herd. So it's aunties, there's daughters here, these young males, a young female that born in this group. You finally got a bigger group in number. But these two can't have enough of each other, as you can see there. Good afternoon, boss man. So you want to know if these huge ears help them to listen well? It may help them listening well. But the only main things with these huge ears they have, that it helps them to be able to control their temperature, understanding that there's such a massive veins across from the heart to the head section, and for that sometimes when it's too hot they need to flap the ears, and that works like a fan, but then it will cool the whole body down, all of the body. So not only the neck section where the ears flap, but once these veins cool down, the whole body of animal does cool down. The hearing point, it's only a little ear hole, which is, compared to that ear, it's so small. But hearing is great, because they can able to hear far distances, depending on how communication they do. It's quite a few different communication elephants do, including this trumpet as well. Sometimes trumpet comes to the point where they're not okay with some things. Maybe they get threatened. Threatened can take place when other young males, come to an area and then freak out the young one, push over, and the mother turn around and yell at them. And that's where you hear this kind of a trumpet take place. Or then it's a dangerous animal around. They're always aware of dangerous, this animal. They're so far too big, we would think, no, they don't have an enemy. Disease is one of the enemy, but that's natural causes. But again, with this group of elephants over here, they are all mixed with their young one. All they do, they have to make sure these young ones are all taken care in case there is a lions. It's got to be a very serious enemy for these elephants, especially with these babies. If it's not taken care, if they stay away from them, lion can sneak in and of course would kill the babies. She gets very brave enough to get close to us, as you can see. With the trunk they use, the trunk is anything they ever have and they need it. I've seen an elephant with half trunk, but sometimes doesn't work well. So the trunk is well trained that from very young age of this animal, grow up with the technique of how they use them. As you can see how they trample grasses, able to feed, put the grasses right in the mouth. And sometimes the tongue will only select what is needed. If some doesn't really taste good, will be chopped off, or harder stuff also won't need it in the mouth. It will be chopped off and thrown out away. I'm going to take another moment here before I move on, see what these whole elephants come close to us.
We're just trying to get sight here of a hornbill that's on the edge of this ravine. Ravine is a strong term. And the hornbill is not on its own. It is tracking a troop of mongusta, dwarf mongoose, and hoping that they will unearth something pleasant for it to eat. There's also a fork-tailed drongo tracking them. And then around here, there was some angry shouting from babblers and one or two grey go-away birds, which indicated to me that something must be causing their distress. And I hoped fervently that it could be Thandi the leopardess. Might be. Let's look up further ahead. It's just down in here. So if we go very slowly, we might be lucky. Quite a lot of bird song around here right now. Seems a little odd for this time of the day. Woodpecker. Ooh, Niels, on that tree there, the kind of small one right in front of us, there's a woodpecker. That one, yeah, there. Dead straight ahead. Keep going. That tree, yeah. It's on there. Just go up a bit. Naturally, I can't see it anymore. I think it's moved on. It was a little cardinal woodpecker. Dash. Very pleasant, subtle bird calls. Waxbills, pitilias. Pss, 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 pss. Cisticolas. Ooh, there's the woodpecker. On the right-hand side of the green knobthorn in front of us. Up, up, up. Yep, keep zoom dead straight. Center frame. That's him. You got him. You see him there? There's the woodpecker. Cardinal, female cardinal woodpecker. Doing the pecking. One feels that that's quite a lot of hard work for a Sunday afternoon. I feel slightly sorry that the cardinal woodpecker has to bash its head against wood in order to get a meal on a Sunday afternoon. You would think that the universe might provide it with something easier, like a line of ants walking along, perhaps. What a very pleasant birding diversion.
So we decided that we would head towards the dam, and on the way there we managed to find a nice herd of elephants. Now have a look at this female that Gert is zooming in on. She's got really, really impressive tusks for a female. Now you can see they're a lot thinner than you would see on a lot of the bigger bulls, but they're really long. She's got a little calf behind her as well. That is really beautiful. Now, if you look at her head, notice there's a dark line between it, or next to her eye there. There's some kind of secretion. A lot of the times you'll see that with the large bulls, you know, when they're in must. Then you'll notice that those black lines on the side of the face from the temporal glands. But you'll see that with the females as well. And that usually happens when they're either stressed or if they went through something traumatic. Maybe they ran into some predators somewhere that they were chasing off, and she has that little calf with her, which she must protect. That's quite a small calf, eh? Calf's just feeding on something there. Nice big herd. Bunch of them in the road there. This little calf is coming out. Have to see if we can get this calf here just to the right. Oh, this one's probably gonna chase it forward. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Around 23. At what age will the calf start growing tusks? So around about 3 years. So once you start seeing those little tusks emerge, then you know they're about 3 years old. I mean, it's already starting to grow, but you just can't see it. But once they start showing, then you know they're around 3 years. But they're already growing. We just can't see them yet. It's still under that, or under the base of the trunk, or the upper lip. Alright, so they're all moving through the thicket here. We'll see if we can loop around and get a better view of them.
Sorry about that, everybody. Luckily, we have some elephants. Also, equally lucky, I wasn't swearing. Fantastic. Worked out all very nicely. Great. Okay, so here we are with some elephants. And they are feeding, as you can see. A breeding herd of elephants.
So this is over again on Quarry Pen Road. That's when I cross north again towards that block.
You can hear, I don't know if you can hear that. That is the sound of the blue waxbill. The other sound you can hear is flatulence from the elephant in front of us. Elephants do tend to be fairly flatulent, as do all eaters of herbaceous materials. Zebras. Here comes a little one running down the hill, wondering what the bigger ones are doing. Just like a little human being who would go and see what the older cousins were eating to make sure that he wasn't missing out. We'll sit here for a little bit longer and then we'll decide probably to move on, I guess.
Well done, James. Stay with those elephants a little bit longer I am trying as much as I can to stay with these cubs here a little bit longer. I highly doubt that will happen because currently here it has started to rain cats and dogs. I might be saying soon it might be raining the same elephants and with James and buffaloes. If you listen to the rain covers of the vehicle, you can hear how the rains are pounding. But the cubs and the mother have stayed put. They know at one point this rain is going to stop. It was like that. It was like this yesterday. But I think yesterday we had bigger rains than today. So one of the females has moved away, and what you're going to do, we may have to power down. You see, I've got all my rains set. I got my wipers running because the rains are getting bigger. We don't have any thunderstorms and lightning as yet, but I think as soon as that started happening, we are going to power down our equipment just in case we don't damage our expensive equipment. So you're gonna be taking you to another location, I guess, in South Africa where they don't have any rains, and once things improve here, definitely you'll be back with us.
What David is going to be doing is battening down the hatches, and then he's going to be pouring himself a tea, probably eating a hobnob of some description, and I tell you what, there's little better than sitting in the Mara with a hot cup of tea, a hobnob, and lions just outside and the rain beating down around you. It's just magnificent. If you're not getting wet, which I'm sure he won't. So, David, I'm quite jealous of you and your tea and your mobile tent. Three youngsters coming towards us. Just feeding gently along the banks of this riverbed. This one is not sure whether he finds us threatening or unthreatening or what the story is. Well, Kendra, yes, they are known to be smart animals. Interestingly, they have the most neurons in the brain, the greatest number of neurons in the brain for any land-based mammal. I think the short-finned pilot whale has the most neurocortical neurons, but that doesn't necessarily mean intelligence. It does mean some... Oh, sorry. I'm going to throw this radio out the car. It does mean a certain level of intelligence, and their sociality, or the fact that they live in such a social arrangement, means that the prefrontal cortex, which is the frontal part of the brain, is bigger than it would be in many other animals. And sociality is normally associated with intelligence. So, yes, they are quite smart. Are they smarter than chimpanzees? Well, probably not in some respects, and probably yes in other respects. The geniuses out here are the elephants, the hyenas, and the primates. And unsurprisingly, all of them social species. Proportionately, the biggest brain that I've seen amongst the carnivores, though, doesn't belong to the hyena. It belongs to the badger, to the honey badger. And certainly they are brilliant at problem solving. So although they're not social at all, they might be an exception to the rule. So although the elephant has a very big brain, its brain to mass ratio is not anything like as big as ours, for example. We've got a much bigger brain to mass ratio. But we don't have the biggest brain to mass ratio. I believe there's a shrew species, or an elephant shrew species, that has the biggest brain to mass ratio. So intelligence is a difficult thing to predict, and obviously also equally difficult to test with wild animals. It's difficult to get a herd of wild elephants to sit down and do an IQ test. Now, I believe there are some lions on Chitwa, which is not too far from where we are, so I think we might tootle along there and see if we can see them. Alternatively, we might just sit here a bit longer.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. We've managed to find 2 buffalo bulls that are just grazing here next to the road. And the one on the right has just been staring at us since we got here. He hasn't actually carried on feeding, but the one on the left moved off a little bit, and then he fed a bit, but it seems like they're now just resting. You see that one on the right's got a little red-billed oxpecker on its nose, and if you look carefully in its ear, there's a bit of blood there. And that is probably a wound caused by fighting with another buffalo. So those very, very sharp horns that you can see on this buffalo, that would have been what did the damage, but from another buffalo. And then that wound will sort of fester a little bit in his ear, and he'll use bushes and branches to scratch it. But also with that wound, I mean, the assumption is that it's from another buffalo, because these buffalo bulls that move together like this, they do establish a bit of a hierarchy amongst themselves, and they do fight every now and then. And so the assumption would be that it was caused by one of the horns of another buffalo. But they also get a lot of ticks. The oxpeckers can't get to all of the ticks, so what the buffaloes do is they'll find a nice strong bush, and they'll actually get the bush in between their ears and the horns, and move quite aggressively up and down and rub that little crevice between the ear and the horns. And it might have been caused by something like that. So JP's asking, are buffalo fights fatal? And yes, JP, they have been known to be fatal. I've never seen a fatal buffalo fight, but what I have seen is 2 buffalo bulls fighting, and the one actually, his horn went into the eye of the other buffalo, and blood was just streaming down his opponent's face. So I think we actually saw the horn go like into the eye during the fight. And so it's not uncommon to see the oxpeckers taking ticks right out of his eye. Not uncommon to see blind buffalo, because the way that they fight, they often do fight head to head, but often they stand side by side, and then they because those horns are curved backwards, they flick left and right, depending which side their opponent is on, and they try to hook one another with those horns. And so the eyes and the ears are quite vulnerable. So they get a lot of little holes sort of around the neck and the face, and of course they can puncture the eyes and get wounds like this one has in the ear. It's a pretty mean-looking animal. And you see those that big chunk of horn right on top of his head, in between the horns. That's how we know it's a bull, and that horn is like a big cushion for his brain. So because they're so powerful, when they clash heads, they have to have some kind of cushion to protect the brain. So that other bull has laid down at the back. And this one is still staring at us, but we're going to leave these two and go and see what else we can find.
Some of this herd have come down to have a bit of a drink. One of them seems to be watering the grass, that one that is now at a precarious angle, spraying water onto the bank, engaging in a bit of bush gardening. They look so unwieldy when they try and climb like that, but in actual fact they're relatively agile for something their size. And although he looks like if you blew on him he'd fall back into the water, I don't think he would. Well, I suppose it depended how much garlic you'd been eating, or pilchards. Julie, we don't know for sure, but there are certainly indications that elephants do eat plants for medicinal purposes. There is... it's anecdotal. There are anecdotal accounts of elephants that do things like push specific... that put specific plant or leaf... lost my words. That put specific leaves into the hole where their tusks have been lost. And those plants are known to have mild analgesic properties. So, yes, it is possible that they do self-medicate. I don't see why they wouldn't. And I don't see why the physiology of an elephant, even if they're not consciously learning it, why the physiology of the elephant wouldn't provide sufficient information to the elephant to make it eat certain things. Our own physiology does the same thing. If you're short on salt, you'll crave salty food. It's not your brain's acknowledging the fact that you are short on salt. You'll just crave salty food, and you'll seek it out, and then you'll eat it. And I think it's probably very similar for these sorts of animals. And I'm obviously not talking about human beings and their cravings for foods that they might be addicted to. But, you know, if you've been for a long run or something, or you've been sweating a lot and you've lost a lot of salt, you'll crave a salty meal. And I'm sure the elephants crave certain kinds of nutrients that occur only in certain kinds of plants, which I suppose must be considered some sort of form of self-medication. I also think that they don't get as sick as we do. And they don't get as sick as we do because they live the lifestyles that they were designed to, as I keep banging on about. They don't travel huge distances in aeroplanes, in tubes filled with all manner of foul disease. Right, I think we're going to try and head on and see if we can see those lions. And yes, well, that's all I have to say about that.
A beautiful roan, and this is a bull, a male. You can see from the thickness of the horns, male and female in this species of antelope will possess horns. Male's a bit thicker, a little bit longer. A little bit shorter, and they are used for male-to-male combat. He was actually doing a little bit of horn thrashing, so where an antelope would put its horns into the bush and basically jostle his head from left to right quite vigorously Sometimes it's just to strengthen and loosen muscles. It also could be a sign of dominance. Some antelope even use their horns to dislodge plant material from a tree. If they can't get to seed pods high in the tree, they'll actually use their horns in the tree, thrash the tree around, and allow these seed pods then to drop to the ground where they then can consume them. Ah, what a beautiful sight. We are driving west. We've visited our little Cape Fox den. No sign, no luck yet. We're going to keep on trying. We're going to go directly due west. I'm going to scratch around the dunes to see if we can find anything interesting.
Back here to this Beverly Souk Dam now. From the elephants and the herd of buffaloes we find. What an interesting thing just to see a whole herd of them. I know this morning we failed to see all of them together because some of them already crossed that road. And I believe that that limping young one still within this group. So happy that they're near the water here, which they already, all of them drink. And they're making their way south again. And Beverly Souk waterhole has sufficient water for all this herd to drink and have enough and move on and carry on, conceive a lot of strength for moving throughout the night. And probably when it's dark, it's going to be dark with there's no moon, it's cloudy still. And this is how they're going to move and find a very safe place. They would call safe place, but it's never safe at night for them because enemy for them, it's a lions. So how do they deal with this? It's all that they do is they put all young one right in the middle. It's a lot of these males supporting this group here, all herd. Cameroon, welcome to this afternoon show, your show this afternoon. So, this time of the year, or I might say, we had a lot of lost on buffalo a few years ago due to a drought that impacted take place twice. And then since then, we were shortage of buffaloes. Until then, before we used to see anything from 500 of them together. When you find them in the open, you would think of these crossing of zebra. These wildebeest doing migrations. But it was all about buffaloes. Until then, there is this kind of drought take place, and then all of them died. It was so sad to see that happen. You would see lions that don't even hunt them. All these elephants going to appear right on our left-hand side. Isn't it interesting just to see elephants going down to drink? So, I don't think we see anything 300 and more or 200 and more. This herd here could be anything from maybe 80 or plus. So this is the number of herd you see. And sometimes, possibly you see 30 in a group, maybe 70 in a group these days. But they're quite easily, to recover in number. What we've seen from that drought until today, we think they're doing better. Reproduction take place, and then all now recover in number. So we see nice herds like this. Way before you wouldn't see anything like that. So it's a lot of cow here, females. So the whole group is so important. So I have a lot of cow, and the males. Of course, breeding for the male, they're not territorial. Some like cows sometimes. Monoplays. In terms of breeding, any male that are available. Pick females, few male will go after her in a group. I must say, these animals are very strong. You know, when it comes to stand and defend themselves against the lion, because lions are serious predators for them, especially the bigger one. The young one, still taken by, I've seen a leopard trying to hunt one of the young one. If left behind and able to follow the herd, no protections, which sometimes does happen. You find a buffalo lost, young one, mother's not there. You know, but that's not only buffalo does this. You know, wildebeest can do that many times, and those have been killed by the leopard, because once they're left behind, it means they're still too young. And then many of the wildebeest understand when they lost the babies, because when they feed, they hide the baby far distance and then they go feed and they come back. Maybe they don't find them there. The baby has moved, disturbed. Difficult to allocate them again. So finally get lost. It can happen to buffalo. Find a young one run around on their own. Oh, there's a beautiful young bull elephant right inside here. I didn't know what it was. I got frightened. But look at this. Beautiful, the young bull elephant. All they're making their way down to the water hole to drink. It's always very interesting to see all two of the big five combine. Won't get along for sure, but the smaller one always make a way for the bigger one, as you can see there. That's how they respect each other. See a lot of communications made by the elephants already, since they're making their way down to that Bevelshoek Dam to drink. Probably afternoon drink for everybody this afternoon. It's a good time. Once they drink now, they would have a lot of Paul, welcome to the afternoon show, your show. You want to know how much each buffalo can take a daily. So that depends on how much available of grasses. Well, these times we see still a lot of plenty of grasses. And of course, buffalo can take anything from about 30 kgs, 35 kgs. Remember, they also ruminate animals. Same to giraffe, take anything about 38 kgs, things like that. Can be more, but you know, they don't actually, when they have eat, they have time. That's why for them to eat, it's not all about eating and going. They eat, and once they had enough, and then they have to take it easy and chew the cud before they can go feed again. So we're just going to roll down to the dam there, see what is happening, see how this elephant's going to drink for us.
So welcome back. We have found a beautiful male kudu, or kudu bull. He's just picking some of the leaves off that little bush there. What a beauty. This is quite a large bull. Notice those big spiral horns. And then you'll see at the tips of the horns, it's actually white, which you'll see with the mature bulls. The yellowish white tip. Another way to tell that it's a mature bull is by counting those spirals. So normally when you see 2.5 turns, you know that he's full grown. That brownish grey coloration, he blends right in with this vegetation, especially this time of year. Also notice, these kudus are really beautiful. Notice the fringe on the neck. If we zoom in a little bit, it's quite hard to see now, but there we go. Just a little bit down. Down, there we go. So you'll see there are actually 3 colors in that fringe. So close to the base of the neck, it's white, and then it's got that dark stripe running through it, and then it's light again, and then the tips are dark again. So beautiful. And then also that white line that runs across the face. Now kudus mostly browse, which is what he's doing at the moment, which means they mostly feed on leaves, so they'll pluck the leaves from these little shrubs and trees around them. Quite nice to see that he's just staying here. A lot of the times when they spot us, they'll just move into the thicket. Holistic is saying the horns are amazing. They really are. Gert and myself are also commenting on how impressive his horns are. He's got a really good set of horns. Very wide as well. Now you can imagine that those horns, it can hinder him, especially seeing as kudus like these thick areas. They generally occur in thick vegetation. Now for him to walk under these trees and shrubs in these thicker areas, it must be quite difficult, and you can imagine that those horns might get caught up in the branches. So usually when you see them walking through these areas, they'll lower or lift their heads up, so the horns are lowered back and it goes beside his body, and in that way it doesn't get snagged in the branches. You can actually see the white lines, the vertical lines running down the side of his body there as well now, as he's turning slightly. Now that's supposed to break up the outline of the kudu, and it helps him blend in a little bit better. Sassy Cassie, are kudus the biggest antelope in the bush? They are not, but this is a very, very big antelope. I mean, a male kudu can reach up to around 250 kilograms, but there is a larger antelope that we don't really see in these parts. You see them close by, but I think you might have seen them at Tswalu, and it's something called an eland. And that's the biggest antelope that you'll see around in southern Africa at least, and well, in Africa I guess. And those males will be between 600 and 900 kilograms. They are very, very large. Now, as big as he is, these kudus are actually incredible jumpers, and I've actually seen videos of a kudu clearing a 2-meter wall just from standing, not even taking a run up or anything. They jump fences quite easily. And if you've driven around in South Africa, especially in areas around parks and game reserves, you might have seen these signs on the roads warning you against kudus that could potentially be jumping across the road. How beautiful is that? Look at those big ears as well. So as I mentioned, they usually occur in these thicker areas, but they need those big ears to be able to hear what's going on around them. Oh, he's so relaxed. Good scratch there. Now the only thing that he'd have to be aware of is lions. Such a large kudu bull, I don't think much else could take him down other than a pride of lions. Right, we're gonna continue and see what else we can find.
We have come to Tswalu, where I said that we were going to look at some lions, which we are, but we are just waiting for the sighting to clear out a little bit. And now we are observing some hippopotami here at Tswalu Waterhole, which does not appear to have noticeably dropped in the dry season. I mean, obviously it has slightly, but it's not noticeable hugely.
Have you left your phone? No, sorry, Chris, you're going to go now, eh? Okay, no.
And lovely little sounds they're making. And on a day like today, being in the water is probably the warmest place for them to be, with their thick covering of blubber, because it's a bit breezy out of the water. As you can probably hear. Otherwise, it's a very pleasant temperature. Now, what these chaps are doing is standing on a little island that is around the tree there. And at the height of last season's dry season, I was able to sit on that tree, walk from here to the tree, and sit on it. That is how low the water was. Daniel, you're wondering what a group of hippos is called. It's called an armada of hippos. That's not true. It's not called an armada. It is called a pod or a school or a herd. I think in most academic texts on hippos, not that I've read a huge number of them, you'll probably find the word pod or herd. Some people will say a raft of hippos. That's one of those fun collective nouns that comes with English. It's not a biological one. But yeah, often people actually use the term raft of hippos. I think it's quite a nice one. And the oxpeckers there are now having a good feed. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can come in. They're taking their time.
Copy, thanks. All right, good news. We were allowed to go to the lions. I'm going to go there immediately, simply because I don't know how long we'll have there before we too have to move out. So I'll see you there.
Look what we have here. A beautiful female giraffe. You can see she's just making the most of the remaining light, feeding on like new shoots of, it seems like it's a leadwood just right next to her. It's just beautiful watching her actually feeding. Look at that, eh? You can see she's been waiting for this time, eh? So this animal can mainly feed on twigs of trees, so basically they browse. So this is actually a very good advantage, special for such tall animal, because they can't really graze like a small animal like an impala. And now just coming out of winter season, many trees dropping or losing all of their leaves. It's such a stressful moment for this animal. So now she's just, look at that. I'm not really sure what trees that she's feeding on, but giraffe are known. I've seen them feeding mostly on a knob thorn. That actually looks like it's not clear. The leaves are not really clear, but anyway, it's a beautiful scene. We can also hear some ellis at the background. Just where like two boys. So yes, giraffe can actually eat at night, especially on like days when there's like a full moon or this moon or something disturb them, especially during the day. It could be like, us human or lions or any activity that can impact on their day. So yes, they can definitely feed as well at night. But one thing that I've observed that I found that was very interesting, it's when you find them at night actually lying down with the neck up and just ruminating.
Beautiful. From giraffe to an elephant. These elephants here, looks like most of them already moved to the other side, but these two, they're still very interested on feeding in that, thorns in there. Looks like the bigger one and a small one at the left, right here. It could happen that maybe, because it was a big group, so it could happen that the rest of the group still coming down to drink, but these already drank and then move on. Only these two that are still here, and they aren't gonna just go separate like this. Probably keep up again to join the rest. They'll figure out how to do it. They communicate. They can smell, hearing. So from them finding each other, it's all about technique of listening of no sound. Then they have to make sound. And then you get a response from the other group. But, it's amazing, when they come to this water hole here, they use a lot of these game paths which made by a lot of different animals. So I'll leave this herd here and then go look for possibly Kalamba around.
Here we have got the lions, which is rather spectacular, and they are sitting atop a termite mound. And apparently they have been trying to make more lions, but I haven't seen them trying to make more lions, and I imagine that if they try to make more lions where they're currently sitting, there is going to be, well, I don't know how I'd put it. I think that one of them's definitely going to fall, and I suspect it would be the male. This is one of the stranger places I've seen lions sitting. And what they're doing, actually, I think, is looking towards the Chitwa Lodge, which is where we are, because they can hear some youngsters making a bit of a noise. Young humans, I mean. Priscilla, we're not... I mean, I'm assuming this is one of the Nkuhuma Pride, and their territory... Phew, how big is it now? It used to be about 3,000 hectares or so. So 30 square kilometers. And I would say it's probably a bit bigger than that now, given the departure of the Styx Pride. So I would say that their territory is probably around 5,000 hectares, 50 square kilometers or so. Now, I think that male, and I stand to be corrected here, is the Mohawk male of the Avoca Coalition, so named for what was a very Mohawk-like mane. It's not so much like that anymore, but I think that's who that is. I really can't see them mating, sitting atop that termite mound. If they do, it's going to be funny.
I'm going to follow up on some Nongo alarm calling. It sounds like a little bit east of Tswalu Drive. I'm just going to go have a quick cruise around there.
I wonder if we shouldn't try an angle around the other side. We might do that.
So we have found some adorable baby giraffes here. So there are 3 of them, and then the 2 mothers just beside them. You can see the 2 calves on screen now. Here's one of the females just to the left, and then the others on the other side. Now you often see these young giraffes forming almost these little creches. When the mothers go off, sometimes they leave them alone for a few hours, and it's just safer for the youngsters to be with each other than it is by themselves. You'll notice there's a little oxpecker also riding on the back of that young giraffe. And this specific one, we've actually been watching it scratch its neck and its face on this dead shrub in front of it, or that small dead tree. Watch, there we go again. There we go. There's nothing for you to eat there. See the tongue coming out? Like he was licking that branch now. How adorable is that? Those fluffy little ossicones. Jenna, how many teeth does a giraffe have? I actually have no idea. Yeah, you've stumped me there, Jenna. I have no idea. But I would assume that it's probably the same as us. But I speak under correction. But they have large molars with which they will chew these leaves and flowers and seed pods that they pick off the trees. Now you'll notice that female, let me just have a close look there. Looks like she's feeding on the little flowers of that bush willow there. Tasty. Now watch the tongue coming out there. Very long tongue. And the tongue is almost like purplish black in colour. There we go. See it? She'll wrap it around the little branch and then she strips the flowers off. I love their little mane as well. It looks like a buzz cut. Let's go back to these youngsters. Now, scratching. Lois, what sound does a giraffe make? They don't really have any distinct sounds. I've heard them like huffing and puffing, but other than that, and like a snorting noise I've also heard, but other than that I haven't really heard them make any other noises or sounds. They're pretty quiet. I think that if they were distressed, if it was really like something serious that was happening, then they might be a little bit more vocal. But in general, you don't hear them making any noises. Like they don't have alarm calls like a lot of the other animals do. Look at that little one just having a good scratch there behind the little horns or ossicones. It's like the perfect height for that scratch. Oh, they're having a good time there. Look how dark that one's face is, the one on the right, compared to the other one. A really dark face, like black, all along the muzzle, between the eyes. I wonder if they're not taking the lichen off that. Can you zoom in on that one on the right there? Just trying to see why they are. Yeah, that might be what they're doing. So those branches are full of lichen, and it seems like they're feeding on the lichen. No, the lichen is like it's a fungus and algae that have formed this symbiotic relationship, and that you see growing on trees. You see it all over. And this is the first time I've actually seen giraffes eating that. It looks like that's what they're going at. There aren't any leaves there, so that must be it. Very interesting. Look at that little tongue. Adorable.
Our lions have done very little, but I tell you what, it's not that common to see lions so alert and so awake at this time of the day if they're not doing something. You know, these guys are just awake, alert, and looking around, which is quite strange. Also, I don't think that the mohawk male there likes Niels very much, because he keeps looking in Niels's direction with a look that, I think it's barely disguised contempt, frankly. It's very rude. Oh, well, that's nice. It's nice to get a bit of cruiser in the shot. He's probably in quite a nice position there. He's gone quite a lot closer and down lower. I suspect, however, that if we went there, we would have no signal, and therefore there would be no purpose. So we're going to stay where we are for now. We might try a little bit closer. We are quite far away from them. But I can't see them mating when they're up there. Hello, Jim. No, I don't think the lions' numbers have increased substantially in the last few years in this part of the world. I think they've remained pretty much consistent up and there and thereabouts for the last, 20, 30 years maybe. But in Africa as a whole, they've definitely reduced. Their numbers continue to reduce. They continue to be threatened by the increase in human populations. And just before anybody sort of rolls their eyes around and says, it's a pity that Africa isn't looking after her lions, it is a pity. But remember that animal you're looking at used to be the most widely distributed mammal on planet Earth. So long before they were threatened in Africa, they were wiped out of Europe and Asia. So we as human beings have done very little to help the lion, and Africa is the last refuge. I don't know how many there are exactly. The number that's bandied about is about 20,000, which is, and it's really not known if that's accurate or not, because there are large portions of the continent that have gone relatively unsurveyed, because they're not much fun to go to, quite dangerous to go to. And a lot of lions live outside of protected areas, or certainly in the buffer zones between protected areas and farmland. So it's a tricky one. And sadly, despite all the amazing work that so many conservation organizations engage in, there just doesn't seem to be a huge amount of success with the lions. We know more and more about them every year, but our ability to look after them doesn't appear to be increasing substantially. And that's simply, I suppose, a lack of will. It's the same reason that the rest of nature struggles so much. It's because, there just aren't enough people who care about it. All right, I think we'll probably try a slightly closer approach. See if we can get a better view.
So we start with this journey of giraffes. See the two young calves just feeding away there. Now we've noticed something quite interesting about one of the females here, one of the cows. So if we move over to the left, you'll notice that she only has half a tail. Look at that. And slightly further down, you can actually see that there is an old scar there. So I think that she might have escaped the claws of a predator a while back. Let's see when she walks past us, you might be able to see that scar a little bit better. It's on the left leg. There we go. Just see it there. And that's quite a big loss because that's a really good fly swat. So without it, it's really hard keeping the flies away, especially from that region. Lots of little oxpeckers riding her back as well. Now, one of the females that just crossed the road, we actually noticed that she had a lot of oxpeckers on her. And on closer inspection, we actually found that she had a tiny wound on her chest. Now, as good as these oxpeckers might be, picking off the parasites and the ticks, sometimes if they have wounds, the oxpeckers will also pick at those wounds, or scabs. They'll take off the scabs and they'll actually drink the blood. And then the wounds take a lot longer to heal. So these oxpeckers aren't always that nice to have around. Also also stripping the flowers off that tree there. Look at all of them on this youngster in front in the road as well. Oh, it's coming over. One, two, three, four. There might be some more on the other side as well. Just look how they're moving through the fur there.
They've got up. And the reason they've got up is because there is an elephant herd walking past, which Niels may be able to get into. Yeah, we'll just show you them walking past. And the male particularly looks deeply unimpressed. And I say that because his ears are flat back. Such a nice picture of them actually up there. It's such an unusual picture of them. Now, that the distraction's gone, what's going to happen? Elephants didn't even stop for a drink, they just walked by. Isn't that cool? Not something we see every day. And every time, this is typical when cats are in the process of the mating process, yes. When they're in the process of the mating process, every time she moves, breathes or twitches a whisker, he's up and about, considering his next move. Which in this particular instance is going to be to stand there and hopefully not make himself look like a total fool by falling off. And he's got to turn round without falling off. Might also be able to hear the nice call of the black-headed oriole. The blowing of the hippo, pleasant smell of the water, and unfortunately the odd whiff of lion scat on the air. He looks like a slightly dissatisfied bed partner whose partner won't move or move up. There you go. Try and look slightly agile about it. Not quite so ridiculous. There we are. Now you can sit down. Well done. back to precisely where we had them to start with. So I don't think we'll go anywhere. We'll sit here for a little bit longer until the light fades and then move on.
So as the lions waiting them for an activity, welcome back guys to the MARA. It's been raining. We just had a storm that passed over. But now we are back live again with our Ellies now. Look at it, they all look wet. Enjoying the grass, lots of water. Oh, that one looked like she might have tried maybe to dig on the soil because I can see mud on the tusks. So elephants use their tusk to dig for soil. They scrape out the bark of trees to eat. They use that as a tool that helps them carry on their daily activity. We have not a very big herd, but a relative herd here. Elephants have personalities. So like us humans, sometimes there are people who are very angry, there are people who are very jovial, the same as elephants. Now we can see the little ones are just enjoying the grass while the moms are browsing on the grasses there and the twigs. Those two look like cousins. And when it comes to this kind of relationship, the cousins help each other in discipline, especially the older ones. Look at those two. They seem older than the one to the left. So during their daily interaction, they help their mom and their aunties to take care of the young ones, to discipline them, while they still follow the orders of the matriarch. So these herds will be walking out of this area where it's close to the marsh. They'll be go to the upland because it seems like it also rained tonight. Oh, look at the elephant at the back. It has a massive tusk. Look like an old matriarch there. Look at how I like the way they help grasp grass by kicking with the front foot. Very nice interaction. I reckon the calf on screen now is about 2.5. By this age, they've already learned how to use the trunk. Because elephants, the lower than maybe 1 year old, they're not yet able to use the trunks. I can see another matriarch there. So this seems like two different families. Didier, thank you so much for your question. How often do an elephant rather, give birth annually? So elephants don't give birth annually. I reckon a fully grown elephant will only get pregnant up to maybe 22 months. So until the calf is weaned after 2 years, that is when they will give birth again. So after every 2 years, if they're successful, the calves are weaned, and then it waits until another 22 months to give birth. Cool. Back to our elephants. Seems like they're still enjoying. So during this time, you find that they also have very white tusks, because when they're walking through the bushes, they have a lot of water, they end up being cleaned. It's very interesting to see. So I'm going to wait here and see what these elephants will be doing and where they'll be going.
Good idea. Some of the animals, like elephants, may feed even during the night, as much as Tom will stay with them and maybe leave them at one point. They may continue feeding, unlike the buffaloes that I got here. In general, once it gets rather dark, they tend to stop and remain in a particular place to spend the night until the following day. I don't remember the last time I saw buffaloes moving in the night. And that's not the buffalo you want to meet when you're walking. For example, in the village you come from, and he comes out from the bushes because he'll come straight out and toss you. He's trying to feed in those bushes of the orange leaf crotons. So they'll take advantage of all the amount of light that is left, maybe for the next 45 minutes, 1 hour before it gets dark. And they may choose to sleep. What I've seen them more often than not in an open place, unlike in the thickets, they usually have enough fur to cover their bodies to keep them warm. And I'm sure by staying together, keeps their warmth together. And always good to update you on baby Jasuri. And I would say so far so good. The last update was this afternoon about 3 o'clock from the game warden. And the vets saw her this morning. They haven't come back because they did not have any reason to come back. She is doing very well and progressing just fine. The swelling on the foot has really reduced. And what has happened, they think most likely by the end of October, Jasiri will be up and about. And you remember earlier I was telling you that she got a family that has adopted her, and that's the best news. Because earlier when she couldn't keep pace with the first family that adopted her, she stayed behind. And for like 2 or 3 days, she was in her audit, a particular spot that I saw her. But from like the last 4 days, she got a family with her, which is very good news. And there's some times back at Tudio, I was composing a song for that baby, and I was being helped by Bungay, who is the gentleman on the camera. And in the next 1 or 2 days, we are going to sing that song for you, me and Bungay. So stay tuned, wait for that song of baby Jasiri. Bungay is laughing for no apparent reason, because he is apparently the one who came with the idea, and most of the composition has been done by him, and we are going to sing that song possibly for you tomorrow or the day after, latest Tuesday. Bungay, are you excited to hear that? Bungay goes because Bungay says he'll do the bass and I'll do the soprano, so let's see how it will come out. So again, as I said, stay tuned. Song is coming. Time for these buffaloes to grimace. Maybe that particular male there. I'm not sure. The one down, there's a female. Possibly, he might have just smelt her urine and finding out if she could be in estrus. Who knows? The female to me is just chewing cud. This is typical of buffaloes being ruminant. Or it could have been a young buffalo, you know. Sometimes these animals will do things that are out of the norm. They've been rained on. If you look at their coats carefully, they don't look the normal buffaloes that we know of. It's because the storm we had maybe the last 45 minutes before it stopped. See, their fur is still wet, looks a little bit shiny. It's pretty small herd. I mean, the herds in the mass amount of buffaloes are always anything 300, 400, 500, and this is barely 100, pretty small. But that happens. But once the herd starts, maybe 50 or 100, it just keeps growing. Unlike elephants, where you might get 2 or 3 herds coming together, then at one point separating, going different ways. I haven't seen buffaloes separating. Either the herds keep growing or something tragic happens to them. For example, if there's a breakout over some sort of disease, something like foot and mouth, and sometimes this, you know, a particular percentage of them dies, or they may get what we call bovine tuberculosis, and you get a big chunk of them dying. Or what else? I mean, sometimes they also get anthrax. And it's always got a challenge when we get the buffaloes coming to the villages where we come from, and they sometimes infect the cows with their diseases. Now, I want to leave these buffaloes here because in this particular area, more or less time like now, I've always found myself very lucky spotting black rhinos. There's one particular mother with 2 calves, and this is her domain. And we all know black rhinos are very territorial. This could be one of those evenings. Just keep fingers crossed. I would be happy to see a black, she's doing very well, black rhino, taking care of her 2 calves, and one is pretty big, just like the mother, and the other one is a small one. Very good. We'll be taking you in the meantime to another location.
We've had to leave our lions, I'm afraid, because lots of people wanted to come and see them. I was hoping we'd be able to spend a little bit longer with them. The light is fading. You know, they probably want some privacy, given what's on certainly the male's mind. One of you asking if that was the hairy-chinned lioness of the Nkuhumas, the one we used to call hairy chin. I'm afraid I don't know them well enough anymore to be able to say for definite. She's certainly the right sort of age, got a totally black nose. So, yeah, it could be. Could be. It's possible. She just looked quite young of face, and there was, you know, her face was very unscarred. But it could be. Right, we're going to pop up back onto Djuma, I think. We'll leave Chitwa and see what's going on at Djuma. Just in case you are a new viewer, Chitwa and Djuma are not the same property. They're all part of the same Sabi Sands Reserve, but because of human property laws, we must be careful about where we traverse. Here are some impala, whereas, of course, the animals are free to move hither and yon, hither and thither, between the different reserves and properties. There they are. A herd of impala, which will be very satisfied with their evening if they don't encounter those 2 lions. I always feel sorry for the antelope on days like today when we get back and the chilly wind and kind of, sort of, well, I don't like to use the word evil, but tricky darkness is falling, and we can go into shelter and the animals can't. Chevy, you're wondering if animals get pneumonia. No, I don't think they do. I mean, I imagine it's possible, but again, remember that it would be highly unlikely, given that they don't expose themselves to different kinds of pathogens that they're not used to, and that might make them sick. So I think it's probably very unlikely that they would get pneumonia. I don't know enough about it, but isn't pneumonia a generic term for a whole suite of lung problems? I think it is. And so, you know, presumably they could get some kind of pneumonia, perhaps. Yeah. It's any infection that inflames the air sacs in one or both lungs, which may or may not fill with fluid. So I suspect that you'd probably find animals like this can get the precursors to many of the diseases that affect human beings, but that they would shake them off and fight them off before they got too bad. And those that were immunocompromised, so perhaps in a big drought or something like that, and then if they got really cold and wet, perhaps they might also develop some kind of fatal pneumonia. It's quite nice colours there, isn't it? Copper and grey. Lockwood, when you can tell if an animal is not well, depends on the animal, really. I don't know how to tell if a sponge or a coral is not well. I'm not sure how to tell if a termite perhaps is feeling a little peaky. But if I was looking at an impala, if it was sufficiently unwell, it would have lost weight. Its skin condition would be poor. It may be producing mucus from the nose, same as we produce mucus from the nose, snot, in other words. And it would depend entirely on what was making it unwell. If it had some kind of ear infection, well, then it would be easy to see. If it had septicemia or a septic wound, then, you'd be able to see the source of it. But I guess, much like with human beings, if they're sick enough, they'll start to lose weight. Obviously, you can't see the pallor of their skin, so it's not possible. If you can get close enough, so for example, if I walked up to that impala and I said, oh, just look over there, and tricked it into looking the other way, and then grabbed it, opened its mouth and checked its gums, then I might be able to tell whether it was sick. So in domestic animals, that was what you'd do. You'd lift up the lip and press on the gums and check whether there was any kind of, if the blood flowed back or if they were pale. So that's a way of checking the pallor. I guess you could also check in the eyes. But again, this is all largely for domestic animals. So in animals like this, they have to get pretty sick before they start to show outward symptoms such as weight loss or skin condition problems. Let us press on and see what else we can find.
Beautiful. So we find this beautiful bull giraffe here, southern giraffe, feeding on very beautiful shoots of leaves that is taking now places in this tree here. As you can see how he's just gently moving on. But typically they will be separated sometimes, or journey of giraffe mixed up in the group. You can see how he's struggling to visit this tree here, because every time what happens is these are browsers, so every time they visit tree they feed enough, but every time they look further, all trees looks like all beautiful, so they can be sometimes confused of which they're gonna choose to go for. I'm going to slightly move forward, probably get his face there. It's a beautiful bull giraffe. For that, and group of his friends, and then you're able to take it of finding them or no need. They okay. Been separated. They're not territorial animal. You can see how actually fully grown bull could be anything, but sometimes fully grown giraffe like this could be about maybe 6 meters or 5.5 meters tall. Just gonna leave him moving away from us. Just gonna move forward, look for something else.
We've come across the second herd of elephants around here. This one seems like they're not too wet. I wonder if the rain didn't come to this side. Now look, it's calf season. We have lots of elephants with calves, teeny tiny ones, 1 year and below. This family looks like it's not as big as compared to the other one that we saw. I can see they're happily grazing while the calves are also joining their mom to go uphill where it's a little bit raised away from the marsh and the water that will be logged around here when it rains tonight. So elephant calves need to be warm, so they need to stick with their moms at night. Elephants also can can eat up to 16 hours in a day. So Amanda, thank you so much for your question. Do elephants ever have twins? Yes, elephants can have twins. So to the eastern side of where we are, we have a park called Amboseli. There's an elephant by the name of Paru who gave birth to twins. Then there's a second one that gave birth to twins. In Tanzania, south of where we are, there's a park called Tarangire. There's an elephant that gave birth to twins, but it's not encountered or it doesn't occur that much. So the last case that was heard was in 1989. So until 2018, that is when we heard of an elephant that gave birth to twins. So it is not a daily occurrence. It doesn't happen yearly, but yes, elephants can have twins. So our elephants are relaxed here, but they soon be walking slowly, heading back to the hills. And then tomorrow they'll do the same journey. They need to drink on a daily basis, so they go uphill tonight, and then tomorrow during the day they come down for a drink. So when they accompany the calves, pygmies, they're very much experienced, so they protect the calves from predators. And elephant families that have experience in old enough matriarchs have been known to be so successful in raising a big family as compared to younger mothers that are not yet able or not very much experienced to be raising the calves. So as we wait here, I'm just going to turn around because we have other people at the sighting, so I want them to enjoy the sighting as well. So this is interesting to see us, these elephants graze. Let me just drive slowly to where these elephants are. Get a good view. Now look at that calf having a little scratch. How cute is that?
Elephant calves are always so cute. And I was talking of elephant calves the other day, and Bungay thought I was talking about elephant cubs. Anyhow, I'm looking at the sunset with elephants, just like what Tim have, but see the difference here. It isn't what I'd call a beautiful sunset, but the colors in the background there, with the backdrop of all the escarpment, with the bossy trees in the foreground, I think they make it very, very beautiful to look at. Very good job, Bungay. Elephants, this is their pace to feed. You come here 1 hour later, 2 hours in the darkness. Laramore, good to hear your name. I haven't heard you for quite some time. Yes, you're saying those colors are beautiful. And Laramore, you know, anything to do with Africa and to do with wildlife is just magnificent. Those colors in the sky there, I think I was trying to pick them up one after the other. And I think peach was the best color for me. Not sure what that small little calf is holding there, maybe a piece of stick. Sometimes they do not know what to do with their trunks. They'll always learn to hold stuff, not necessarily to eat. Whatever she had was just too big. Look at that one huge elephant there. Looks like a male to me. I may have to confirm that. It's quite a distance. Looks like a male to me, and he is massive in size. Look at the tuskers there. And if you look carefully, they look pretty clean. And this is sort of the rains we have just had. And if you see these elephants before the rains, they're always looking grayish. It rains, the grayish goes, they look dark. You'd think they've been in the black cotton soil, which forms a big geology of the Mara soil structure. Strange to have this one huge male near those females there. We'll always have males on their own. But again, you never know if the young girl to his left could be in estrus or getting there. You never know, because the dominant males, the elephant males, will make sure the young bulls don't get the chance to breed. So staying close there, if there are any youngsters here, young bulls, will definitely read the script. They're not allowed anywhere near that female if she is or she's going in estrus. Since she's young, she's got very small tusks. Because I've been seeing that male very close to her for quite some time. See the kind of grass they are feeding on. Most of it is the red oat grass. It looks pretty dry, but they still derive lots of nutrition from it. Here's some hammercops, culling, francolins. It's coming maybe to the end of the day for them. If it was earlier with more light, you'd expect to see lots of egrets here. Peter, good question. And you're asking, when is the mating season for elephants? Peter, elephants will have a breeding season all around the year. So they do not have a particular time to mate. And you'll always see in a herd of elephants calves of different ages, which would indicate they would mate any time of the year. And of course, after every 22 months or so, a baby is dropped. Another few months from another cow, a baby is dropped. So if you look carefully, like that calf there, Peter, the one that I showed you earlier that was trying to chew on a stick was much smaller, so it's all around the year. The animals, Peter, would say they have a particular defined breeding season. Only the wildebeest in general, you can say, come the month of February of every year, around that time, they'll always have a time when they drop their young ones. So they have a particular time, there's ratting, mating, and then drop the babies in the month of February. Look at those two calves there, Peter. One's bigger than the other. So different times of the year, they will be mating and having calves all around the year. The matriarch could have given some instructions. Follow me, we need to go in this direction, cross the road. I mean, they might walk in the road and give a bit of a roadblock. Could be rather difficult to know who the matriarch could be, but the command or the powers when it comes to important decisions. They could be going for a drink this time around, as much as because of the rains we've been having. They've had a lot, I would say, moisture that would collect on the grass. And you can see I've put those two calves in between. I would guess the matriarch, she looks big to me and quite aged. And always having their youngsters very close to them. Those are the shepherd trees that you're seeing in the background there. Very iconic trees of the Masai Mara Serengeti ecosystem. Some of the only trees that will survive the hard pan that you'll see here in the Masai Mara and Serengeti. Not many trees are able to penetrate with their roots. just spend a few minutes here as I wait for those elephants to give me a clear on the road as we take you to another location.
So we have also found some elephants. We dipped down into the riverbed and found these elephants just feeding on the banks of the Timbavati River here. So the majority of them actually look like bulls. The one at the bottom here that we're following with the young calf, that looks like a cow. It seems like it's the only female around. Because that's the one calling as well. And it's actually quite unusual to see this, you know. Only 1, 2, 3, 4 young bulls, one female and her calf. And I think her calf's also a young bull. Normally these herds consist of related females and their youngsters. Where is she going? You can see that we're in the riverbed. Now this riverbed is such a beautiful place to drive. All of these large trees along the banks. And I really love just seeing which animals cross the river. All the tracks and these little game paths that the animals create across the riverbed as well. There's always something happening down here. And at this time of year there are lots of flowering trees and things that you can see down here. Lots of birds. And then, of course, the elephants. What's that one doing? See, Kai's wrapping his trunk around the grass and then just shoving it into his mouth. Carter has asked, how do elephants grow their tusks and what are they made of? Carter, their tusks are, it's pretty much like our teeth. So those tusks are just, let's say, modified teeth. And they grow it exactly the same way as we grow our teeth. You know, it kind of just happens. And yeah, those teeth will grow, or the tusks will grow throughout their lives. And I looked it up the other day, and they'll grow 15 to 18 centimeters a year. But it's a really handy tool for them to have those tusks. You know, you often see them digging with those tusks. Sometimes you see them stripping the bark off trees with the tusks. And you sometimes see the bulls fighting with them as well. You'll notice the one that's on screen at the moment. If you have a close look at those tusks, you'll see how dirty they are. Now, especially this time of year, those tusks will work quite hard because there isn't a lot of green grass around, which in summertime is what they mostly feed on. About 70% of their diet consists of grass in summer. But this time of year, they have to resort to a whole range of other things. There's a young elephant in front of us. It doesn't seem to like us very much. Looks like a young bull. He's flaring his ears and just running at us. Let me just see. He's cowering off. Let's see what he does. No, I think it was all, he just had a big bark there. He's actually scared of us. He's moving off. You often find with these young bulls, they pretend to be all macho and they'll come running at the vehicle. They'll put their ears out and they'll trumpet. And and then a lot of people will start the vehicle and they'll reverse, and that just kind of teaches them bad manners. Because then once they age and they're big, then you don't want an elephant to do that. Eventually they realize we're not here to harm them. Alright, looks like they're just moving onto the banks. So I think we'll continue in the riverbed and just see what else we can find. It's actually quite chilly. I've got a blanket over my legs here. It's still overcast.
It seems like our elephants are enjoying the grass here. Probably, maybe it might be sweet. Also, these calves are not leaving that sighting. You can see the mom is still looking at them while they're grazing. A very nice sighting. Hear how powerful and strong their trunk is while they're pulling the grass. Elephant trunks have lots of muscle, so it acts as their tool of trade combined with the tusk. So both the trunk and the tusk help when elephants are performing big tasks, especially when they're pulling off grass. When they're dusting off grass, they use the trunk, lift the grass and beat it on the tusk, which is nice when you watch that. Now hear that when they're pulling the grass. So to do this, elephants have to eat lots and lots because they don't have a ruminant stomach. So most of what they eat is not very well digested. I reckon they can eat up to over 200 kilos of food in a day. This is so exciting. Lots of birds calling on. I'm not quite sure what we have. We have on the road, we have jackals. That's why we have some birds very, very loud and alarming. But still back to our elephants. They're not going to leave that grass around there. Now this calf, a little while earlier, was playing with the brother. It was nice to watch. We've used now the infrared because it's getting dark. And when these elephants are walking slowly, the rest of the herd have moved uphill, which has made it even more exciting. I'm not sure if this is going to be the nesting or resting rather place, but hopefully they'll have a good night when we leave this sighting.
Look what we have here. A one bull elephant just walking in our dam wall. It seems like he's gonna come and drink. We actually have been waiting for him. We just had them just waiting here at like the famous dam that we have here at Pridelands, the Ndlovu Dam. Hence the name, Ndlovu Dam. So the dam of elephant. Just coming to have his last drink before the night, after probably a very long chill day in the African bush. Look at that. Just checking if the water is clean before drinking. Hoping more and more elephant will also join him, because at this age, look at those toes. At this age, he shouldn't be alone. It's either with herd, but more or less like probably got kicked out of the head. Maybe with, oh, I can see one more elephant on the demo just showing up. Just gonna sit here with this Ellis.
So driving around the corner, we actually also found more elephants. And looks like the rest of the herd, they're also slowly moving across the riverbed onto the other bank where the others had moved to. Just see the one crossing there. And we could see a few more cows with their calves on the other side. So that explains the scene earlier. I was quite confused. It's just that one female and all the young bulls. The one that's on screen at the moment also looks like a bull. And he actually looks like he's nearing that age where the females will push him out. So once they reach puberty, the females don't want them around anymore and they'll chase them away. And they kind of have to fend for themselves, or they form little bachelor herds with other bulls that have been pushed out as well. And they often trail these large breeding herds for quite some time until they eventually get the point and they leave. I think that's another bull, the one on the left there, one that's feeding a little bit higher up. We were just watching that one. He was stretching up to the shrubs further up on the bank with his back legs also straightened out. It was actually quite cute. See how that one gets up. What's he trying to pull the grass out there? Struggling. Thomas, how big are elephant bull territories? So they don't actually have territories. They have something called a home range, but it's not a territory, so it's not a demarcated area that they protect and defend. So they'll just move in these home ranges to where there's nice food to eat or where there's enough water to drink. And then when they're in a state, in that state where they want to mate, when they're in must, then they travel like even up to hundreds of kilometers in search of females that are on estrus. So they don't really have territories, let's say. Which is nice because we see a lot of different herds of elephants and different individuals crossing in and out of the reserve. I think it's really nice. Liam, you're asking how often do elephants sleep? Not very often. So a lot of the times, and you've probably noticed when watching the show, a lot of the times when you see elephants, they're usually feeding. Now that's what they'll do for about 18 to 20 hours of the day. So now 4 to 6 hours, that's when they'll rest. And if it's a really large animal, oftentimes you'll see them leaning against a termite mound or against a big tree, just so it's easier for them to rock themselves back up. But normally during the heat of the day, so when it's really, really hot, you'll see them resting and sleeping somewhere in the shade. They don't get a lot of rest. They have to feed a lot to sustain those big bodies of theirs. Because they have really poor digestive system, so a lot of what they eat just goes straight through. They really have to eat a lot. And especially this time of year, you know, there isn't too much greenery around, except if you're around the riverbed. There's still some nice food around here, and that's exactly why we're finding them around the riverbed so frequently. And they also come dig for water down here. That's also one of my favorite things to watch, the elephants digging in the riverbed. Look at those two standing side by side there. Let's go in a little bit closer. Now look at that one. The legs are stretched out. The one on the left. Oh, he's crossing the legs. The other one also the same thing. Oh, that's adorable. Wonder what they're feeding there. I can't really see too clearly. See the one on the left that's got his legs crossed over now? They usually do that when they want to rest the legs, because they're on their legs for so long, for most of the day. Well, we've had an incredible safari, I think all round, and I hope that all of you will be joining us for the morning safari as well. From all of us here, have a lovely evening and good night.
Live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.